Welcome back to our YouTube channel. We're going to talk about the 2014 film titled The Drop. The film begins with footsteps. Somebody's walking through different doors while Bob tells in the voiceover about the secretive money business. There are packets of money taken here and there that are being received and put into a locker that is on the bar's reception. Bob says that in Brooklyn, money is saved like this so that there are no records in any bank, hence no investigation. Bob is a bartender in his cousin Marv's bar. He's making drinks for the customers and announces that the drinks are on the house. They cheer for Marv, who sits at the table behind them. Marv gets up and leaves while a girl catches his attention. He inquires about her presence and asks Bob to stop giving her free drinks. Afterwards, Bob cleans up the bar, closes, and goes home. As he is crossing a house, he hears a dog squeaking. He gets closer to find out that the dog is stuck in a trash can and is bleeding. He takes it out, and the house owner, Nadia, comes out. She looks at him scared and asks for his license. She takes a picture and lets him inside the house so they can go in and treat the dog. Nadia was a nurse and a vet once. She cleans the wounds of the dog and gives it to Bob. He is reluctant to take the dog and asks for some days to think about it before taking it up for adoption. Bob leaves the house while somebody is watching over them. Bob is still thinking whether he should adopt the dog as a pet or not. Acknowledging the responsibility of having a pet, he thinks he shouldn't do it. He talks about it with Marv, who makes him realize that it is a dog after all and not a child, so that's not as big of a deal as he thinks it is. Bob nods like he has made up his mind. Two guys sit outside the bar in a parked car. One of them tells the other that they have to do it right now, so they start wearing their masks, while Bob is cleaning up the bar to shut it down. The two men bearing guns come inside and point at them. Bob looks at one of the man's wristwatches with a big white dial. Marv is here too. They both put their hands up. The two thieves throw their bag in front of them and ask them to give all the money. Bob fills the bag with a packet of cash and they leave. As they leave, Bob hears someone squeal. He goes out to where one of the workers, Roddy, was injured. We see an ambulance standing outside the bar, in which the injured Roddy is taken to the hospital. The police also stand next to them while they are looking at the place and investigating the robbery. Detective Torres is asking Bob questions about the bar. He's asking questions like he knows about the business that goes on behind there. As he leaves, Marv shouts at Bob. He scolds him for talking to the detective because now the detective is going to be on guard and will keep a watch. Bob looks annoyed and tells him he was just making small talk. Bob goes to Nadia's house to take the dog. He tells her that he is ready to have it now, and he's thinking of naming the dog either Rocco or Mike. Nadia suggests that Rocco is better. She even takes him to the nearest PetSmart where he can buy stuff for the pet. She tells him about all the things that he might need for the pet. Eric, who is a local gangster, is watching them keenly while sitting in his car. Bob takes the dog home, where he makes a space for him to live in. Bob is cleaning up the snow with a barrel when Marv throws salt at it. When a car stops by and a strange man wearing all black steps out, the oddly humorous guy makes a comment to Bob about his amazing snow cleaning technique, which he brushes away. The guy is Chovka, who is from Chechnya. He is the owner of the bar. Chovka asks them about the money that was robbed off from his bar while showing him a guy held by men sitting in the trunk of the car. It is one of the guys who robbed him. Marv tells them that they are trying to get back at the people by telling him that they have put the word out in the neighborhood. Chovka asks them to find his money at any cost. Bob is least bothered about the issue, while Marv goes about cursing them. Meanwhile, Detective Torres is on a mission. He goes on telling another detective about everything that happened at the bar last night. He tells her about the Chechnya guy and about his business. Bob is at home. Meanwhile, Marv goes about meeting the guy. He is the same guy who was in the robbery. Marv asks about the money and why they hit Rhodey so hard. The guys ask about the next plans for the big final drop. Marv tells them to lay low. Bob is petting the dog in the park where Nadia comes over and tells him about her losing her job and asks him if he can hire her for babysitting Rocco, which he agrees to. Eric is watching them again. Eric talks to Bob and tells him that his dog is nice and he should be fed properly. If you enjoyed the video so far, please consider subscribing as we frequently upload such informative and entertaining videos. Now let's continue. Marv's wife asks him to leave for Europe, so they leave for another country for a vacation and take time off from work. Eric comes to Bob's house and tells that Rocco was his dog. He tells him that there is a chip in the dog which will tell who owns it. Eric tells Bob about the times he has not fed the dog, and when it started to irritate him by asking for food, he would hit the dog with stones and shoot him, which made him bleed. He warns him that if Eric took back the dog, he would hit it again and not feed him at all. Bob and Marv stand outside the bar to find a trash bag which has an arm and some cash. He picks it out and takes it to the kitchen, where Bob wraps the piece of a human body into plastic. He struggles to wrap it, and Marv is mad at him. He tells him that he has done that so many times before, so why is he struggling now? The arm has the same watch which Bob saw on the man's arm. Bob is in the bar where Chavka comes again. Bob serves them drinks, while Chavka subtly warns them about not getting them the money back. Bob takes out another package of money and passes it to Chavka's guard. Meanwhile, Detective Torres is standing next to the bridge looking at Marv's bar. He stops a man and starts questioning him about his business around the bar. He asks about Bob and Marv, but the man gets annoyed by the investigation and leaves. Bob goes to get Rocco from Nadia's house. He looks concerned and talks about Eric. Upon telling her about the episode with Eric, Nadia tells him that Eric is her ex-boyfriend. She tells him that Eric has killed a kid called Richie, and nobody knows why. Marv is driving his car, and he picks up a man who was the same guy who robbed. The guy is reluctant to get in the car, because he thinks that that's dangerous, since the last time anybody saw his brother was when he was getting in a car with someone. Marv insists that he sits because it's too cold outside, and people might notice them. As he gets in, Marv shouts at him for being naive. The trunk won't shut properly. He asks him to close it, and as he goes exactly at the back of the car, he reverses the car on him and kills him. Bob walks Nadia home after they had dinner together. Eric comes and meets Bob again. He asks for 10 grand for the dog, or Eric will take the dog back. Eric walks in Nadia's home when she is not home. He looks at her stuff and moves it around when she finally comes back to her home. He scares her. He tells her that she needs to sit down because he wants to talk to her. When she refuses, he becomes violent and tells her that she must go with him. Bob is in the bar with his gun in the cabinet. He is waiting for Eric to come when he sees Eric walk in with Nadia. They both sit exactly in front of him. Shook to see her with him when Nadia had told him that it's over with Eric. Bob asks Nadia about Eric, to which she tries to tell him, but he comes back. Eric leaves, and she tells Bob that she didn't want to be here, but Eric forced her to. Marv has parked his car outside the bar. Meanwhile, Eric comes over to the reception and asks her for the money. Bob pays him 10 grand, but he wants more. Bob tells him that he cannot do that because he only asks for 10 grand. When he is persistent that he wouldn't open the locker and give him money, he holds Nadia's neck and asks him to pay money for her. Eric orders him to open up the locker and take out another 5 grand as soon as possible. Smart Bob goes on telling a fable to Nadia and Eric. He tells him how Eric shot a boy for Marv and stored him in an oil container in the bar, and shot him just because he was being a nuisance for Marv. Upon hearing this, the psychopath Eric loses his control and takes out his gun. Bob does the same and shoots him without wasting a breath. Meanwhile, Marv is in the car looking at a man walking towards him in the rearview mirror. He knows what's about to happen. He takes a deep breath and the man shoots him dead. Eric is dead and Nadia is left. Bob takes care of his body by cutting him into pieces. The next day, Detective Torres comes over and asks him questions about the disappearance of Eric and the murder of Marv, but he says he knows nothing. Chavka comes over again and offers Bob to run the bar for him. Bob meets Nadia and tells her they can continue seeing each other if she wants to. Nadia accepts the invitation. And the film ends. If you have already watched this movie, share your reviews with us in the comments below. And before you go, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and share it with your friends who are into drama, comedy, and crime fiction movies. Thank you for watching.